Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Manatee County Candidate Forum. I'm Alice Newland, the immediate past president. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan public policy organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. The League has both women and men as members. The League does not support or oppose any candidate or party. This presentation is being recorded and will be posted on the League of Women Voters of Manatee Counties and Manatee Educational Television's websites and on their YouTube channels. Reference can be made to it, and it can be posted and shown in its entirety. However, it is the property of the League of Women Voters, and partial showing or posting cannot be used without the written permission of the League of Women Voters. I'm pleased to introduce our moderator, Renee James Gilmore, host of ABC 7's Empowering Voters.
All right, thank you, Alice. The Democratic candidates for Congressional District 16 are Jonathan Harris, Kelly Kirschner, Tamika Lyles, Glenn Pearson, and Jan Schneider. Today's candidate forum rules call for civility on the part of candidates and the audience. The landmark or the hallmark of democracy is the willingness of our community to treat each other with courtesy and respect. It's in that spirit that we are here today to engage a vital part of our democratic process. That is a civilized discussion of the important issues that confront our communities. Candidates will have 1 minute to answer a question, and at the end of the program, they will have 1 minute for their closing statement. Linda Long will call time. When she says time, please finish your sentence because we must move on to the next candidate. We'll alternate between candidates depending upon who goes first in answering the question so that everybody gets a fair chance. At the end of the forum, the candidates will give a 1 minute close and appeal for your vote. We ask all candidates to speak only for themselves and not provide insight into their opponent's positions. There will be no rebuttals. So let us get started. As I said, the order of the candidates will vary, and we are going to start now with candidate Jonathan Harris. So Jonathan, what led you to run for this seat, and why should voters choose you to represent this extremely diverse District 16?
So as we kind of look at the political landscape right now, I think a lot of folks are tired of the gridlock that's in Washington, me included. As a voter who's been voting since I was 18, I am particularly not happy with the way that our democracy is going. I've spent the last 20 years in the military. I've deployed 4 times in support of Operations Iraqi Freedom, Enduring Freedom, Freedom Sentinel, all of those named operations. And when I come back home, I see that there are a lot of people who are discontented with what's going on in Washington today. And truth be told, a lot of folks who didn't vote in the last election are my age. And realistically, we're getting tired and we're losing faith in the kind of democratic process that exists. And by showing people that, hey, look, anybody can run, anybody can be elected, and anybody, as long as they have good moral values and ethical, guiding compass, they can make a change in Washington. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Thank you for that. Kelly Kirschner.
Good afternoon. Thanks very much, League of Women Voters, METV, for 2 nights in a row for really sharing this out with the community and the 90 plus people that are here to be participants in this conversation. My name's Kelly Kirschner. I am a native of the community, 3rd generation member of this community. My grandfather came to Bradenton in the 50s. I grew up in Sarasota, but my parents' business growing up was a citrus stand in Manatee County next to the airport. And then in addition to being a commissioner and mayor, I've spent the past 13 years living on the other side of the Skyway Bridge that is now part of this district. So my full life has really been a reflection of this district. When you talk about the rural areas and coming from a family working in a citrus business to now this entire coastal area that's part of this district that I'm animated to run. And I think similar to Jonathan, one of the things that I have grown incredibly frustrated with over my adult life is why all of these problems cannot be fixed.
Thank you. Tamika Lyles.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me, League of Women Voters. I am honored to be here. I am Tamika Lyles, and I'm running for Congressional District 16 simply because I am first a constituent and a mother, and I have grown tired of the bickering back and forth between the parties and little work getting
Tamika's frozen.
done. As someone that has been a public servant, I know what it feels like in this district. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You're going in and out, but we hear you now.
You're frozen. That's time, but she's been out. What do you want to do?
Okay, we're going to have to, Tamika, we apologize, but we cannot hear you. So we are going to go on, please, to Glenn Pearson.
Good afternoon, and thank you so very much for putting on this forum, League of Women Voters. It's an honor to be here. My name is Glenn Pearson. I have been in this district now, a part of this district for 20 years, and not just living in the district. I've been working in the district, working to register voters, to encourage people to actually get out and vote. Served as president of the Manatee County Democratic Black Caucus and the vice chair of the Manatee County Democratic Party. I was born and raised in Detroit by working parents. Both were union members, both union postal workers, and I was a union member myself. I was a broadcast journalist. I've won 2 Emmys. My job was to tell the truth, ask the tough questions, and hold the powerful accountable, and that's what I intend to do as a congressman.
All right, thank you for that. Tamika, how are you coming with your audio? Okay, we are going to go to the second question now. What is your work experience?
Don't I get to answer the first one?
That's right.
Everyone knows you, Jan.
Okay, then I'll pass.
No, go ahead. I think
No,
Jan.
not
Pass
mine.
if you want.
I'm sorry.
I'm Jan Schneider, and I just wanted to add my thanks to the League of Women Voters and METV. Why do I run? I've run before when no one else would run in this very red district, but I was born a Democrat. Eleanor Roosevelt pushed my baby carriage around Washington Square Park. I care very much. I have worked with Congress for many years. I've testified on marine pollution, been invited to testify. I have drafted legislation for Congress. I lobbied Congress. I care very much. I may be downwardly mobile. There were 2 presidents in my law school class. I'm sorry, a president and a presidential candidate, at least 3 senators and so forth and so on. But I am me. I want to do something for the future. I most in life wanted to be a mother and I couldn't. So this is my hook to the future, helping your children and your grandchildren. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Jan, and I apologize for missing you on that. I really apologize. Okay, question 2. What is your work experience? Also, what public service, what community involvement and leadership positions have you had? And Mr. Kirschner, we are going to start with you.
Thank you. I'm a returned Peace Corps volunteer and served 3 years. I extended my service in rural Guatemala. And then upon finishing that, I actually worked for USAID. That was one of the DOGE cuts this past year, in spite of the fact of being less than 1% of our federal budget. And both of those experiences really were getting at the root of really empowering families, growing actually income, and really reducing the reasons why families would want to leave and migrate north to the United States. When I came back home, I immediately joined my neighborhood association that eventually led me, after basically the ills of excessive development that are very similar in Manatee County, where a developer can count to three and the people that the developer has funded. And we ran against an incumbent candidate that was supported by the Republican Party and Joe Gruters at that point, and we won with 75% of the vote, in spite of being outspent 3-1. For the past 13 years, I've worked in St. Petersburg at Eckerd College and look forward to talking more. Thank you.
Thank you. Tamika, Lyles. Can you hear us, Tamika?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes,
I am an Air Force. Okay. I am an Air Force veteran. As I stated before, I started in public service at the age of 15 as a certified nursing assistant, the youngest in my program's history. I started there, ended up doing working in the medical field in the military, went on there to go to law school and become a mediator here in Florida to help families fight against losing their homes. I'm also a small business owner and a nonprofit founder, ensuring that the community was linked to their prospective elected officials. So I have done a lot of work over the years to ensure that my community is represented on all fronts. And that's what I'm here to run in CD 16 to continue to do, is to continue my service.
Thank you. Okay, Glenn Pearson.
Well, as I touched on previously, I'm a former broadcast journalist. I was a television reporter and news anchor. I've worked in a good number of top markets in the nation. The last place I worked was WNBC TV in New York. In that capacity, and asking the tough questions, telling the truth, and holding the powerful accountable, I've interviewed world leaders like UN Secretary Kofi Annan, Archbishop of Canterbury, Rowan Williams, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, the Cardinal of Boston, Cardinal Bernard Law, and I've covered world events like the downing of Lockerbie, the downing of Pan Am Flight 103 over Lockerbie, Scotland, the outing of priests who were abusing minors in Boston. These major stories gave me the experience of asking the tough questions, talking to the powerful, and holding them accountable. Once I left broadcast television, I started my own business where I help people navigate Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
Thank you for that. Jan Schneider.
Thank you. Well, I'm a lawyer. I've practiced law everywhere from small claims courts to the International Court of Justice. I've served on many national and local boards, national from the American Society of International Law to the Council on Ocean Law to the Preservation for Art and Preservation in Embassies, the International Law Association, and so forth and so on. I have been highly motivated to serve public interest causes. I also locally started a free legal clinic for residents of public housing. I have run that for must be almost 20 years now. I manage a small family business. I care. But again, it's not about me. I am ready to start on day one and then mentor someone younger to take on representing this district. I want to serve your children and your grandchildren. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan Harris.
So like I alluded to earlier, I'm a 20-year Army veteran. I actually started in the military as an infantry. I enlisted when I was 20 years old. I went to a deployment in Iraq, came back, and entered the reserves, where I've spent the rest of my career. I have over 11 years active duty time, and during that time, I also worked on getting a degree in cybersecurity, where I used that in Raymond James Financial for 10 years. To kind of work my way up from the help desk all the way up to their cybersecurity department. and then transitioning to the government sector where I work for Special Operations Command as a cybersecurity expert. I'm one of the premier people in their field in terms of information security and AI governance. I actually wrote AI governance policies for Special Operations Command. In addition to that, I'm also one of the founders of the Riverview Dems Club. So yeah, that's what I've been doing for my community. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, next question. This is a two-parter. What are your funding sources and how much is local and how much is out of state? Second part of that question is, who has endorsed you? And Tamika Lyles, we'll start with you.
I have received, well, first of all, I have
Tamika, we can't hear you. Tamika, you are frozen. So we are going to go on to Glenn Pearson, and I will try to get back with you, Tamika, before we conclude. Glenn?
Right, and Renee, you said how much, ask the question one more time, please.
Sure, okay, it's a two-parter. What are your funding sources and how much is local? How much of it is out of state? Part two, who has endorsed you?
All right, okay. Funding sources, this is a grassroots campaign. My funding has come from a lot of small donors, quite a few small donors. Most of them are in state. Most of them are from this district, as a matter of fact. I've had a few contributions coming from out of state, but they've all been small donors. I don't have any PAC money. I'm not accepting any of that. And part two, one more time, Renee, I apologize.
Sure, no worries. So part two is, who has endorsed you?
Oh, endorsed me. I've gotten an endorsement from the former chair of the Manatee County Democratic, Manatee, not caucus, but the Manatee Democratic Party, Chris Weatherington. I've been endorsed by him.
Thank you. Jan Schneider?
Excuse me. I've been endorsed repeatedly by the people of this district. We have twice run the closest race in Florida against a Republican congressional incumbent and done it on less than 5% of the money. Where our money is coming from is, I would say, 90% local. We don't take any PAC money. In fact, nobody offers us any PAC money. I've been accused of taking money from APAC, and that's just not true. APAC gave Vern Buchanan $60,000 last time against me. The endorsement is from the people of the district. As I said, I have at least twice run the closest race against a Republican incumbent. We did better if you adjust for this district against the last Democrat who ran, and that was on more than 3 million. And we did it on less than 50,000. Thank you.
Jonathan Harris.
So we'll start with the endorsement. I've been endorsed by the American Small Business League. That was the first endorsement of this campaign. If you're not politically connected, sometimes it is hard to reach out to the folks who would do these type of endorsements, the former leaders. So I don't have the former leaders in my Rolodex to call. In terms of money, it looks like we're getting about 60% of our money from the state of Florida, and the rest of it is coming from outside donors. Imagine, if you will, that this is a contested primary. So there are a lot of folks who are a little bit hesitant to give money, even though they like your story, they like your what you stand for. They're a little bit hesitant to give money in a contested primary, but we're still doing pretty well.
Tamika has exited and re-entered. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm trying to find her to pin her back to the.
She's here.
She's on our screen.
Oh, there she is. Gosh. Okay, somebody got her. Sorry.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and take Kelly Kirschner, and then we'll come back to Tamika.
Yes. So my dollars, similarly, I am not taking any money from corporate PACs. We've been at this for less than a month and a half and have probably close to 400 donations that are primarily coming from within this district, Sarasota, Manatee, and Pinellas counties, lesser from the rural counties, but we hope to get at that soon. Endorsements received this past week from the AFL-CIO, endorsement from Nobel Peace Prize recipient Dr. Henry Abraham, who is a resident of Sarasota, another resident of Sarasota, former Senator Kent Conrad, that really represented an area of both these rural and urban issues and really building that big tent that we have to do here. He was Senator of North Dakota. Former Republican Representative Dave Trott, who is now, he was representative in Michigan, but now lives here in Florida. Mayor Rick Kreisman, who was a two-term mayor of the city of St. Petersburg immediately prior to the current mayor. State Representative Jen Webb from St. Petersburg. Have others, Renee, if I can list those.
We're at time. Sorry. Okay, Tamika, the question, it's a two-part question, and the question is, what is your funding source? How much is local and how much is out of state? And the second part of the question is, who has endorsed you?
That question is for me, correct?
Yes.
And I do apologize for my technical issues. A storm is moving in where I'm located, so that's what's going on here. I am a candidate who does not take corporate PAC money. We started this campaign, and everyone except for Kelly had been in the race for about a year or more, of the NPAs, the Dems, and Republicans that were currently in the race. I received endorsements from several reps we have not announced yet. So that is something that we are planning to announce at the end of this week. And a few congressional to seek and people that also are fighters like myself. I have been very selective about where I want those endorsements to come from and who they come from, to ensure that they are a true representation of everything that I stand for and what my campaign stands for.
Time.
Are you finished?
No, it's time.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, next question, and we are going to start with Lynn Pearson. The question is, District 16 is now composed of widely divergent areas. What priorities would you support for communities as varied, as densely populated as St. Petersburg and Sarasota, and rural communities, the islands and smaller cities, and the suburbs?
I wanted to tell you, when I'm talking about the grassroots campaign that I have, I'm the only candidate of this lot that has qualified for the ballot with more than 2,700 signed and verified signatures. Saying that, those 2,700 people were not all urban or rural or suburban. They represent all walks of life. And so the diverse community that we have, from the ritzy coastal communities to the urban areas, all the way out to rural, suburban, and farming districts, we're all dealing with the same types of problems with this economy that we have, with the inflation that we're experiencing. I'm listening to people. I'm listening to their problems. I can relate to them because I'm one of them. I'm one of you. So I am able to relate to anyone, if they are urban, suburban, or if they're on the farm. I understand the problems. I'm listening, and I want to be your voice in DC.
Time.
Jan Schneider.
Okay, I reach out to diverse people all the time. What I didn't say on endorsements is I'm probably the only candidate in the state of Florida endorsed by the Muslim caucus and the Jewish caucus in the same election. But what I will do to represent all these people: number one, committee assignments. I know nothing about agriculture. But I will ask, in addition to energy and commerce, which deals with healthcare and is very important in this district, to be on the agriculture committee because the inland counties deserve representation. What I would plan to do also is you get a certain number of offices. I would make one of them mobile so we can show up at various places, hold town halls in each of the counties, reach out to voters in each of the counties. We took a tour of Hardy County the other day. They seem to have, from our experience, more cows out there than people. So I'm learning about cows. Thank you.
All right. Jonathan Harris.
Yeah, I think that even though these districts, the counties are definitely different from St. Petersburg to DeSoto or Hardy County, I think that there are a few things that still reign true, and that's going to be the cost of housing, the cost of insurance, the cost of healthcare. Those things don't really care about what county you live in. Those things will ring true anywhere you go. So focusing in on how to lower the cost of these things has been something that I've been kind of obsessing over in my run. We've actually released a growth economy plan, which actually does address these factors, looking at lowering the cost of healthcare through my American Choice Healthcare Plan, or looking at lowering the cost of, well, obviously groceries is going to be tied to tariffs and the cost of oil, right? So we want to make sure that accountability is done there. But also things like expanding the child tax credit so that people have more take-home money at the end of the month. Looking at homeowners insurance. Yep.
Kelly Kirschner.
Thank you. I was a Peace Corps volunteer and assigned to work actually for a mayor in a rural municipality of over 200 villages. And one of the things we would do is go out to every single village, and frequently that would be spending 3 hours climbing mountains to get to these villages and people that had gone there during Guatemala's Civil War. And it was the motto for the Peace Corps: "That's the toughest job you'll ever love." I'm excited, frankly, about this 6-county area. It's ridiculously gerrymandered, but as Jonathan says, these issues, it doesn't matter where you're living or what county you're living, the affordability crisis is real. This excursion or war in Iran has just added another $400 a month onto families. Couple that with $2,000 per family for the illegal tariff war, and couple that with the ACA subsidies being sunsetted this past December, 200,000 plus families that are now paying $300, $500, $600 more per month. It is the responsibility of our members of Congress to really work for all of the constituents throughout the 6-county area to make sure that they feel that relief.
Thank you. Tamika Lyles.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm over here trying to figure out how I can try to hardwire into this internet so that my connection is better. But I will tell you that I entered this race with Manatee County in southeastern portion of Hillsborough County, but still with the intent of helping those individuals who have gone unheard alike. So when the county was when these counties became gerrymandered, and we took on the additional 5 portions of other counties, I concur. I was a little excited as well because it gave me more of a diverse population. And I knew that whether they were in the rural part or whether they were in the city, they were all facing some of the same issues. We are having an issue with people of the community actually being adequately represented in DC. Doesn't matter the party affiliation or where they're located in the county, but they are not being heard. And that's why I got in this race.
Thank you. Okay, next question. What is your position on federal standards for voting access and your position on election security? And we're going to start with you, Jan Schneider.
For my first position is the SAVE Act is terrible. It will disenfranchise more people than any other piece of legislation in history. But it's not just voter access. We're getting voter influence. We got Citizens United. Corporations can give more money than individuals. We need campaign campaign finance reform to have any viable system of government and elections. Now, also, there are other things I think we need to do. First one, not go with the Trump proposal to eliminate mail ballots, to have the post office monitor the mail ballots. Good Lord, the post office can't do what it's supposed to do now. We do not have identifiable election fraud in this country, despite what our lying president says.
All right, thank you. Jonathan Harris.
So I gave this response last night, and I'll give it again today. Essentially, what we have here in the United States is we have the SAVE Act that's being pushed. I also agree that the SAVE Act is going to, it's a ballot, control measure where we're eliminating people who have access to the ballot, and it's a poll tax in its current form. So, but I also have to realize that there are a subset of people who, against data, suggest that there's widespread fraud. So what I propose is instead we instead of just saying the SAVE Act is wrong and let's continue down the road that we're at for the selective service or the draft, we have automatic enrollment now. So what we could do is we could provide that same service for any United States American who, as soon as they hit 18, if they have a driver's license or an ID on file, they send that registration to their home of record, and then they're already registered to enroll. And then anybody who gets citizenship through another form, they would have to enroll at the normal through the normal channels.
Fine.
Thank you for that. Kelly Kirschner.
Yeah, we did have this conversation last night, and I think it's an unfortunate conversation why we continue to put up obstacles for people to participate democratically. There is no data evidence of widespread fraud in Florida nationally, and I think the few times that we see it, ironically, it's these individuals that are proposing it that seems that might be the areas of fraud. So if we really want to bring greater accountability to the electoral process, I've posted today on Facebook, building on what I did as commissioner and mayor in Sarasota. We passed the most comprehensive campaign finance reform of any municipality in the state of Florida in 2009, with 83% of Sarasota's electorate voting for it to actually reduce campaign donations from $500 to $200 per person, and to not allow any corporations to participate in funding those campaigns. Unfortunately, Citizens United comes in, and it doesn't matter what 80% of the electorate wants. It overrode it, and we need to stop that and work on this now at a federal level.
All right, thank you for that. Tamika Lyles.
I can go. Okay, so I am in support of the John House, and on day one, I will co-sponsor that bill that's there. I am 100% in support of people being heard. It is what since 2012. Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay, Glenn Pearson, let's go to you, please.
Sure. Well, every eligible American voter should be able to vote and should have the confidence that their vote is counted accurately. We already have that in this country. There's no question about it. The SAVE Act is nothing but a solution searching for a problem. There have been so many lawsuits. I think with the challenge of the elections that Trump has been saying that were rigged, I think it's been 60 some odd court cases that have gone against him. There is no problem. There is no widespread fraud going with voting. So the thing is, yes, we should have secure voting in this country. We do already. The SAVE Act is absolutely wrong because it's going to disenfranchise a lot of people who would otherwise be able to vote.
Thank you for that. Okay, next question, and I want to remind everyone only to address just your own position, anybody else's position, just keep that to yourself. We just want to hear from you, okay? Next question. What are some of the examples of how you've demonstrated an ability to establish common ground and make constructive action possible? And we're going to start with Jonathan Harris this time.
So I actually do this a lot in my day-to-day job. As I mentioned, I work as a contractor for Special Operations Command. It takes a lot to find, how do you get to yes? And that's actually one of the mottos that we have there is how do we get to yes? Because at the end of the day, the warfighter and the person who's on the X can't really wait for you to come up with like a resolution to your conflicts. You have to get to that yes in a quick fashion. Otherwise, it means people's lives. I've also had to do that in my military service. Again, working with a lot of Republicans or conservatives in the military and trying to accomplish the mission. We have a warrior ethos in the Army. I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit, and I will never leave a fallen comrade. To me, finding common grounds means always placing the mission first. And in Congress, that is exactly what I would do, is place that mission first. My ego goes out the window, party affiliation. As long as I'm helping the people in my district, that is all that matters to me. And that should be all that matters to anybody who goes to Congress. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Kelly Kirschner.
Thanks, Renee. Yeah, similar in that service orientation in our Peace Corps training, we were taught when you leave your site, your goal is not to have a marble bust erected in your honor that they can see what you did, but it's actually to improve the collective self-efficacy in the communities that you've worked with so that they can actually change their lives. And so my life, starting immediately after graduate school as a Peace Corps volunteer, but in particular as an elected official, has shown that ability to build coalitions and to create that positive change that impacts people's lives in a meaningful way. And so we beat an incumbent being outspent 3-1. And how did we do that? We built that coalition of Republicans, of Democrats, of independents to get to that margin. How did we pass comprehensive campaign finance reform with 83% of the vote? We reactivated that coalition. How did we defeat a super Walmart in the middle of Sarasota in the midst of neighborhoods? We built a coalition again. It's not easy to beat one of the largest companies in the world, but we beat Walmart at the city commission table, and then we beat them in court as well. And so there is a proven record that we have that we're really proud to talk about.
Thank you for that. Tamika Lyles.
I have 3 instances of Tamika.
You've got to have one or it's going to echo.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to log in from an iPad to try to get a better connection here.
Okay, well,
but I have built,
okay. Let's start the timer.
I've built coalitions, being that I am a mediator. That is what I was trained to do in law school. It is to bring 2 disputing parties together for common resolution. I've done that where I have been Democratic Black Caucus. I've also been the co-founding vice president of the Osceola County Veterans Caucus, ensuring that their voices are represented in the community, because prior to that, their voices were not being heard. Also, I've sat on boards. I've sat on boards from the Progressive Caucus to the Black Caucus to the county's DECs, all of these areas where people were not being heard. Also at the top, at the Florida Democratic Party, I was a link trying to bring the progressive individuals together into the party when no one was wanting to deal with them. So I have built coalitions my entire time here in Florida. It's what I've done.
Thank you for that. Lynn Pearson.
Renee, I think this is something that you'd be able to relate to. And working in a newsroom, there are a lot of different opinions about how to get things done. People have very strong opinions about it. But what I would always do, and it was always successful for me, find out what the goal is. Once we have established a common goal, then you listen to the various sides. You listen to the opposing views. then you work out a compromise between the 2 or 3 or 4 opposing views in order to reach that common goal. And when you do that, everyone has a sense of ownership with the end result. Everyone is happy as long as we establish the common goal and we listen and then incorporate various parts of these opinions in order to reach that goal. It's worked for me many times in the past, and as a result, I've actually won Emmys from being able to do that and get that kind of cooperation from people.
Time.
Thank you for that. Jan Schneider?
Okay, 3 levels. Internationally, I represented the United Nations Environment Program at the Law to Sea Conference. I met with representatives of more than 100 countries to work out environmental compromises. Nationally, as a lawyer, most of my practice for a long time was to represent the Canadian government. I explained US law and policy to the Canadian government and the other way around and got them together on a lot of issues. Also, as a litigator, 90% or so of my cases settled. You start and see everything black and white, and as you listen, you see 256 or however many shades there are of gray. Now, locally, in all this experience with the free legal clinic for representatives of public housing, I've done an awful lot of translation between local government and the residents. Unfortunately, there's more and more tensions now as people are more and more hard pressed and even eating cat food. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Kelly Kirschner, we're going to start with you on this next question. And that question is, do you believe the escalating national debt is a problem? And if so, what measures do you propose to bring down that deficit? And please be specific.
Yes, absolutely. I do believe with our current representative, Vern Buchanan, that what he said for 22 years of being in that seat, that it's a significant problem. And unfortunately, we haven't had serious leadership. Vern's a nice guy, but we haven't had serious leadership address it. We've just had the first 20 months of this new administration that is controlled in the White House by Republican Party, in the House of Representatives, and in our Senate. And our national debt went up by $2 trillion, which now means that our interest every year is $1 trillion. We had a lot of hope that DOGE would come in and we have this great entrepreneur that's going to look at waste, fraud, and abuse. But actually, it was a big sham. It was a lie. It was looking at things like the Pentagon that hasn't passed an audit in over 3 decades. We didn't even look at the Pentagon. And what did we cut? We cut the Consumer Protection Bureau that was really protecting consumers from fraud by predatory companies. What did we cut? We cut AID and less than 1% of our federal budget that's extending soft power throughout the world to protect our interests, and we don't have to send our military in. So we need to look at the ways that we actually have an honest conversation about addressing our budgetary issues.
Thank you for that. Tamika, Lyles.
I disagree with Kelly. The people that I represent and know, we didn't have any hope that DOGE was going to come in and do anything positive. We all knew that it was a sham from the gate. We have had an issue with our deficit for quite some time. It has gotten worse with this administration, starting with the tariffs. I mean, the tariffs in a broad way of use only comes back and hurts the communities here and the small businesses also that depend on that transport of goods. So we have to do something in regards to why it should be strategic when you think of utilizing tariffs. That's something that is not political. It is strategic so that it doesn't hurt families like it is hurting families right now. So that would be my first step, is to attack that. But in order to do that, we have to get rid of the administration, the current administration.
Thank you for that. Glenn Pearson.
Well, the national debt matters. It matters because it affects what government can invest in and how much taxpayers ultimately pay in interest. And what is it today? We're spending hundreds of billions of dollars every day just to service the debt. That's money that could otherwise be invested in infrastructure, education, healthcare, veterans, lowering costs for working families. But we need to be clear about how we got here. It wasn't because the debt didn't explode because of social programs like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, or working families. The major driver has been these tax cuts that have been going disproportionately to the wealthiest while adding trillions of dollars to the deficit. We just saw this in this big, ugly bill. So that's the problem. We do have to get a handle on it, but let's make sure that we're not blaming it on social programs that actually are necessary and that people depend upon.
Thank you for that. Jan Schneider.
Okay, last time I looked, our national debt was approaching 40 trillion. It was 39.2 or something like that. We have to have a responsible Congress and more balanced budgets. But I oppose the balanced budget amendment that our last congressman would push so hard because it gives too much power to fringe interests in times of emergency. Number two, I would repeal one big beautiful bill with all the tax cuts for the ultra rich and the very wealthy corporations and adopt different priorities. Number three, Congress has to retake its power of the purse. Congress has totally relinquished that and listening as puppets to one person. Number four, we need to have responsible campaign finance reform. We are letting 300 billionaire families finance 20% of the last election. Our government and our elections are for sale. No, thank you.
Thank you for that. Jonathan Harris.
So yes, the debt is a problem, and it's not because the sky is falling tomorrow. It's because every year we spend more on interest payments, and to correct the record, it's closer to about $1 trillion a year in interest payments than we do on things like education, healthcare, veterans benefits, and so forth, right? So all of those other programs. Realistically, we do need to have tough conversations about our spending, and in terms of not just military spending, but also domestic programs, closing loopholes for big corporations. I agree with repealing the corporate tax cuts from the One Big Beautiful Bill, because essentially what we're doing is we're saying, hey, look, we're going to take in less tax money and then try and spread every dollar just a bit thinner to accomplish the same goal. And we all know from balancing our own budgets here in the House that that doesn't always work. You need to take in more money than you spend. So that's how we solve the problem.
Thank you for that. Tamika Lyles, we are going to start with you on this next question. Government corruption consistently shows up at or near the top of Americans' list of concerns. What specific steps would you support in Congress to strengthen transparency, oversight, and accountability across the federal government?
First of all, I think that we need to implement policy to prevent our legislators from doing trades. The secret trades have now caused our communities to not trust the very people that are supposed to represent us. These individuals are elected, they get into office and they become multimillionaires, and then we cannot get them out. So it makes the communities very uneasy when we are wanting to be heard, but can't be heard because we now find that someone's, corrupt and accepting money from people that they shouldn't be, and we can't remove them. So I am all for drafting or co-sponsoring legislation that stops the secret stock trading that our legislators do right now. I'm also for ending Citizens United. I am all for overturning that, and that's going to take time. I do understand, but that is where a lot of our issues come from. The billionaires have bought our elected officials.
Thank you for that. Lynn Pearson.
Well, for more than 20 years as a journalist, my job was to ask the tough questions, follow the facts, and hold powerful people accountable. That's exactly what I intend to do in Congress. I support banning members of Congress from trading individual stocks, strengthening financial disclosure requirements, requiring more transparency in campaign financing, and overturning the effects of Citizens United. So billionaires and special interests can't just drown out the voices of ordinary Americans. I also support stronger protections for whistleblowers who expose waste, fraud, and corruption. See, government works best when the public can see what it's doing, and that's what it is that I want to work very hard on your behalf to do. Make sure that you see what's happening. And as a journalist, a former journalist, I know how to do the investigating, and I will hold the powerful accountable.
Thank you for that. Jan Schneider?
First thing, the current administration has got rid of most of the inspectors general. Those are the people in federal agencies who are responsible for overseeing compliance with the law. Reinstate them. Reinstate the JAG officers in the military. We are conducting illegal military operations and spending that's costing billions. We're murdering people on the high seas. Reinstate the JAG officers. Also, we need new rules for the Department of Justice so it can't be used by federal officials, including and primarily the president, as a tool of revenge against those who complain. And yes, we need more whistleblower protections, which are related to Department of Justice activities. And finally, we need judges with more guts. Donald Trump has appointed now more than half of the federal judiciary, and they do what he says. Thank you.
All right, Jonathan Harris.
Yeah, so I do think corruption is a problem. I do agree with all of the things that were said here, getting rid of stock trading for members of Congress and anybody who holds an elected office, because they do directly benefit from all of those trades by lining their own pockets and using their internal positions to get that access, right? That's insider trading. When I was working at Raymond James, I couldn't actually trade stocks myself because I was working for a financial management company. So that only makes sense. I think that getting rid of the dark money in Washington is also going to be big. Getting rid of super PACs, getting rid of special interests, and then also looking at just locally. I think that people are so disillusioned and think that everything's corrupt because you see locally that people are getting basically handed politicians who are running for office instead of people actually voting, and it goes by how much money they raise or who has the most endorsements. That's not really politics. That's performative.
Thank you for that. Kelly Kirschner.
Yeah, I think for too long, especially after Citizens United, our political system from the federal to the state to the local level has been like a vending machine. You put money in, you get your policy, your zoning change out. And we talked about this last night. If, it was really impressive in 2024, there was a coalition of, I think, good faith voters and actors in the community that said they had enough of really a compromised Manatee County Commission. And I know George Cruz is on this Zoom right now because I saw his name earlier, but where voters came together and they said, look at where this money is coming from and let's have greater accountability and transparency on it. And so then that entire coalition of candidates that had that money and that they understood where it was coming from, dark money sources, et cetera, there was a movement and a dramatic impact that happened in 2024. The same now has to happen in this election. That if one of us on this screen wins, that means that probably 50 or 60 other individuals like us that all agree on these same things, stop insider stock trading, and Citizens United. If that happens, there's a reform movement in this country to make this change that I think all of us desperately desire.
Thank you for that. So we have just about 5 minutes left. Now it's time for each one of the candidates to give their 1 minute closing remarks. And we are going to start with you with the closing remarks, Lynn Pearson.
All right. Truth, accountability, and people over powerful interests. Those are the 3 core values of my campaign. I am asking for your support to send me to Washington to be your voice, not because I'm a lawyer, not because I'm a Harvard grad or a Yale grad. I'm not a former politician. I'm not a career politician. What I am is one of you. I come from humble beginnings, from a working family. I'm not rich, but what I am is enlightened. After a long career in journalism, I understand what's going on in this country. And I know how to ask the tough questions, to tell the truth, and to hold the powerful accountable. That's what people are screaming for, someone to fight for them. I'll fight for you. That's what I'm all about.
Thank you for that. Jan Schneider.
Okay, yes, Glenn, I am a Yale grad and I'm a lawyer, and I paid for all my education because I value it. My parents helped with college and I paid for everything beyond. But more than that, my message is put people before party, put policies before politics, and I have shown that my whole life. And by the way, while we're all Democrats, this is not just a Republican problem. It's a Republican problem now because of who we have in the White House and puppets. But if you take a look at the finances, how much Democrats have advanced their wealth in Congress, it doesn't look good either. We had a senator from New Jersey who is now incarcerated. We have to put various moral standards and practices first, and it doesn't matter what party we are. And no, I'm not rich, however. Thank you.
Time.
Thank you for that. Jonathan Harris.
Yeah, so as I opened with, I'm again probably I think I'm the only person up here that has not run for office ever. I am a servant of this country and am still a servant of this country. I've been serving for the last 20 years and will be in probably until 2028, 2030. So for me, this is about continuing my service in a area where I believe it's most broken. And rather than sit at home and talk about what's wrong with our country, I decided to pick the area where I felt that I could be of most use and, put myself to work. Everybody can talk about what's wrong, but if you're not doing more, if you're not going out and putting yourself out there, then what does it actually matter? So that's what I'm doing. And I want folks who are, like I said, my age or younger, to take that message to heart if you're on the call, because again, we lost this last election because a lot of people were disillusioned by, I guess, people who are on the ballot. And I want people to see that there are people real, just like themselves, who are running as well.
Time.
Kelly Kirschner.
Yeah, thanks again, METV, League of Women Voters, for hosting this. Really appreciate it. I'm not a career politician. I ran once, and I ran once because there were problems that I asked, why can't we fix those locally? And I think the record speaks for itself in what we did and the legislation that we passed locally, the things that we stopped, and how we really worked through the Great Recession to address budgetary issues and to show that you can actually continue to thrive with reducing budgets by over 30%, which is what we did in the city of Sarasota during that time period. I'm running because we are constantly asking, why can't these things be addressed and fixed? Why are we not talking about artificial intelligence and the guardrails that this country needs to put on those and have that conversation in Congress? Why aren't we talking about the solvency of Social Security, Medicare, the ACA marketplace for citizens? Why are we not talking about FEMA in the state of Florida and ensuring that we have the reliability of that, God forbid, when the next hurricane hits? All of these are the reasons that animate me to run for office in this great gerrymandered 6-county area. And I look forward to engaging with all of you that are here. Would love for you to reach out to our website, kellykirschner.com, and sign up to volunteer or donate and support. Thank you.
All right, Tamika Lyles.
All right. So as I was trying to say in the opening, thank you so much for the League of Women Voters for this opportunity. I did not come from money. I did not come from a family that I can utilize their name for political gain or nepotism. I do not have any sexual allegations, and that is very important because we're dealing with the Epstein files right now. And I'm not, even though I have a military background, I'm not currently in the military. and can be deployed at any time because we are in an active war. We are in an active war, not an excursion. It is important that we have individuals that are from this community that are speaking to the needs of the community. That is of utmost importance. And people like me don't usually make it on the ballot. Why? Because it costs $10,440 to get on the ballot. So that shows that I have a movement behind me because I raised that money and more in just 14 days of this campaign. I ask people for your vote, and you can follow me at TamikaLyles.com. Thank you.
All right. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, thank you all candidates. And I want to say the candidates' names once more. Candidates Jonathan Harris, Kelly Kirschner, Tamika Lyles, Lynn Pearson, and Jan Schneider. Thank you for participating. And to all of you attending this virtual candidate forum, thank you for joining us. We also want to extend gratitude to our neighboring leagues in Sarasota, St. Petersburg, and Polk County for actively publicizing the District 16 forums, as well as to the Patterson Foundation, specifically Sherry Correa, for publicizing and reaching out to local leaders in DeSoto and Hardee counties. And tonight's discussion offered voters valuable insight to help make thoughtful, informed choices in this upcoming election. The League is hosting forums for most primary races at the federal, state, and county levels. So to view the full schedule, register for upcoming events, or share nonpartisan resources with friends and neighbors. Please visit the League of Women Voters of Manatee County. The website is lwvmanatee.org. Thank you for joining us.